Blake Lively really thought she was about to walk away from this looking like the hero of Hollywood. And girl, the internet is absolutely not buying it anymore. Everybody woke up expecting this whole Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni mess to finally calm down after the settlement talk. And instead, it's somehow exploded even harder. Now it's turned into a full-on PR war with lawyers running to TMZ, Entertainment Tonight, Variety, Daily Mail, literally every outlet possible trying to spin this thing into a victory for Blake. And honestly, people are sitting there confused because what exactly did Blake Lively win here? Because, let's be real for a second. Blake Lively came into this demanding hundreds of millions of dollars, accusing Justin Baldoni of all kinds of serious things, dragging him publicly, letting these giant headlines spread everywhere. And after all of that, 10 claims got dismissed. Then the remaining claims disappeared, too. No massive courtroom victory, no dramatic evidence reveal, no public trial where Blake Lively stood there and proved every accusation, nothing. So when Blake's legal team started running around saying this was some giant, empowering victory, people immediately started side-eyeing the entire thing. And then Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, basically came out swinging. Oh, he was not holding back anymore. Brian Friedman straight up said Blake Lively was terrified of taking the stand because cross-examination would force her to answer difficult questions under oath. And honestly, that comment alone sent social media into chaos because suddenly everyone started revisiting all the weird details people forgot about during the peak of this drama. Brian Friedman brought up the accusations that Blake allegedly asked Sony to destroy dailies. Then, he mentioned the Colleen Hoover situation where Blake allegedly told Colleen Hoover to unfollow Justin Baldoni. And now people are looking back at all those old reports wondering what was actually happening behind the scenes during It Ends With Us, because this entire thing has become way uglier than just two celebrities not getting along. And the thing that really has people talking is how Blake Lively's team keeps repeating the same words over and over again. False, fraudulent, retaliation, survivor. They keep using these emotionally loaded words in every single interview. And critics are saying it feels more like a PR campaign than a legal discussion now. Then Blake's attorney, Sigrid McCauley, went on Entertainment Tonight, and honestly, people online lost their minds after that interview because Sigrid started talking about Blake Lively as some brave survivor who fought through this horrifying experience. And critics immediately pushed back hard. They were basically saying, wait a minute, survived what exactly? That's where the backlash really exploded because now you had people accusing Blake's team of exaggerating everything in order to gain public sympathy again. And you could tell Sigrid McCauley was trying so hard to frame Blake Lively as this woman bravely standing up for all women everywhere, but the internet wasn't having it. Especially because people kept pointing out how powerful Blake and Ryan Reynolds already are. This isn't some unknown actress struggling against giant Hollywood forces. Blake Lively is married to Ryan Reynolds, one of the richest actors in Hollywood. They have endless resources, endless lawyers, endless PR connections, endless media access. So when her legal team started saying she was being silenced, people genuinely started laughing because how exactly was Blake Lively silenced? She had headlines everywhere. She had major interviews. She had statements being published constantly. She had massive media coverage for months. So, critics started saying the silenced woman angle didn't even make sense anymore. And honestly, one of the most awkward moments came when the interviewer asked whether Blake's Met Gala appearance was strategic. Because remember, Blake Lively showed up at the Met Gala, looking glamorous, while this entire controversy was still dominating headlines. And instead of directly answering the question, Sigrid immediately pivoted back into talking about retaliation campaigns and online harassment. She completely dodged the question, and viewers noticed immediately. People online were basically like, girl, just answer the question. Because the timing looked terrible to a lot of people. Critics were already accusing Blake Lively of trying to repair her public image through carefully planned appearances. And that Met Gala moment only fueled even more speculation. Then things got even messier when Sigrid started talking about attorney fees and punishment. And this is where viewers really started getting uncomfortable because now Blake's side was pushing the idea that pursuing legal fees was somehow part of helping future survivors. But critics immediately pointed out how insanely expensive this entire legal battle became in the first place. We're talking tens of millions of dollars. Some reports are even throwing around numbers close to 100 million. And suddenly people started asking why this entire thing spiraled so dramatically instead of being handled privately months ago. And that's when the conversation around Ryan Reynolds started getting even louder, because people are no longer treating Blake Lively like she acted alone in this entire situation. More and more outlets are dragging Ryan directly into the chaos now, saying this became a couple's PR war instead of just a workplace dispute. And honestly, you can kind of see why people think that way, because every time things start calming down, another statement suddenly appears, another leak pops up, another interview happens, and the drama starts all over again. Meanwhile, Brian Friedman keeps coming back with these brutally direct responses that honestly sound less like lawyer statements and more like somebody finally losing patience. He basically said Blake Lively refuses to take accountability for anything, and that if someone can't honestly examine their own behavior, it creates a very troubled existence. And people online absolutely ate that up, because the anti-Blake side of the internet already feels like she's been playing victim this entire time without acknowledging any mistakes of her own. Then insiders started speaking to different outlets, and this is where the gossip world fully exploded. One insider claimed Justin Baldoni genuinely believed everyone deserved to be heard, even if he strongly disagreed with the accusations against him. According to that source, Justin didn't want to silence Blake at all because he believed the truth would eventually help him anyway. And whether people believe that or not, it definitely helped Baldwin's public image, because suddenly he started looking calmer and more collected while Blake's side looked increasingly aggressive and chaotic. The insider also claimed Blake Lively had an opportunity to quietly move on and slowly repair her image after the settlement discussions, but instead chose to go right back into media warfare. And honestly, that's exactly what critics are saying now. They think Blake had a chance to let everything cool down naturally, but the nonstop interviews and statements turned the controversy into a bigger disaster again. And then came the international media coverage, which somehow ended up being even harsher than the American press. The Telegraph basically said, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds went from being one of Hollywood's golden couples to becoming completely embarrassing public figures during this whole ordeal. They even described the legal battle as a mudslinging competition where nobody really looked good in the end. And honestly, people noticed something else too. Blake attended the Met Gala alone. Ryan Reynolds wasn't there beside her. Now, obviously couples can attend events separately, but because the internet is the internet, people immediately started speculating that maybe even Ryan wanted distance from the situation, especially because there were already rumors floating around claiming Ryan privately wanted Blake to settle earlier before things spiraled this badly. Then, Daily Mail entered the chat and made everything even messier. Their coverage basically framed this as one of the biggest celebrity self-destruction stories in years. They were openly saying Blake and Ryan allegedly wanted to destroy Justin Baldoni professionally, but instead the entire thing backfired spectacularly. And whether people agree with that or not, you can't deny Blake's public image took a massive hit during the saga. Because before all this, Blake Lively mostly had a pretty polished reputation. People saw her as glamorous, funny, fashionable, married to Ryan Reynolds, living this perfect celebrity life. But after this legal battle, suddenly terms like mean girl, bully, and manipulative started appearing constantly online. That shift alone is huge in Hollywood because public perception is literally everything. And meanwhile, Justin Baldoni, who honestly wasn't even that huge of a mainstream celebrity before it ends with us, somehow ended up gaining sympathy from huge portions of the internet. That's probably the wildest part of this entire story. The guy who was initially getting dragged publicly ended up walking away, with people now calling him calm, spiritual, mature, and unfairly targeted. Then reports started circulating that Justin Baldoni may eventually do a massive sit-down interview about everything. Apparently, there's even talk of a future book. And honestly, you already know publishers are probably fighting over that project behind the scenes, because this scandal became one of the biggest Hollywood gossip stories in years. A book from Baldwin's perspective would absolutely sell. There were also reports saying Justin and his wife Emily quietly moved away from California to Nashville during this whole nightmare, trying to create a calmer environment for their family. And honestly, compared to the nonstop PR battle happening in Los Angeles, Nashville probably feels peaceful right now. But Blake's legal team still isn't backing down. Cigarette Macaulay keeps insisting Blake's actions are about helping future women and changing laws around retaliation defamation. She's trying very hard to position Blake Lively as some kind of activist figure now instead of just an actress caught in celebrity drama. But critics are questioning whether the public will actually accept that rebrand. Because right now, a huge part of the internet still sees this entire situation as a rich Hollywood power fight that got wildly out of control. And honestly, one thing people cannot stop talking about is how Blake herself barely speaks directly. Most of the time, it's her lawyers doing interviews, releasing statements, speaking to press outlets, framing narratives. Blake rarely sits down herself and fully explains everything in detail publicly. So critics are saying if she truly wants to become this voice for survivors, eventually people are going to expect her to personally answer difficult questions too instead of constantly communicating through attorneys and PR representatives. And honestly, that's becoming one of the biggest problems for Blake Lively right now. People feel like they still don't actually know her side beyond carefully crafted statements and lawyer interviews. Every single time her team speaks, it sounds polished, strategic, emotional, legally careful, but not personal. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni's side keeps sounding rawer and more emotional, even when they're being messy. And whether that's intentional or not, audiences usually connect more with whoever feels more human. That's why Brian Friedman's interviews keep going viral. He talks like someone who's genuinely frustrated. He throws little jabs in there. He sounds sarcastic sometimes. He sounds angry sometimes. And audiences eat that up because it feels real compared to the very polished corporate-style messaging coming from Blake's side. Then you've got Cigarette Macaulay continuing this huge media tour where she keeps calling Blake brave and courageous and saying this entire legal battle was about standing up to abuse and retaliation. But critics are pushing back harder now because they feel like the messaging keeps getting more dramatic every single week. At first, this was framed as workplace harassment. Then it became retaliation, then emotional harm, then public smearing, then survivor advocacy. Now, people are saying it feels like the story keeps evolving depending on which argument sounds strongest publicly. And the internet absolutely noticed when Sigrid started using words like abuser while discussing Justin Baldoni. That triggered another wave of backlash because people immediately pointed out that these are extremely serious labels. Critics started accusing Blake's team of trying to permanently destroy Justin's reputation even after most of the major legal claims had already collapsed. And honestly, that's why this situation became so emotionally charged online. People aren't just debating legal details anymore. They're debating morality, manipulation, celebrity privilege, media power, feminism, PR tactics. All of it got wrapped into one giant Hollywood mess. Then Variety released another piece, focusing on Blake's legal fee request. And that made people even angrier, because now critics were saying the entire thing was starting to look financially motivated, too. Blake's team argued the legal action was bigger than just Blake herself, that it could help future women speak out without fear. But critics immediately responded by saying, okay, but why does this still feel like a celebrity PR campaign instead of genuine advocacy? And let's be honest, the timing of everything keeps making it worse. 1 second Blake Lively's team is talking about survivors and trauma. Then the next second there are glamorous Met Gala photos everywhere. 1 second they're discussing emotional distress. Then another carefully leaked insider story appears in a major publication. The contrast feels strange to a lot of people, and that disconnect is hurting Blake badly online. Even major newspapers overseas are now openly mocking the situation. Some outlets are basically portraying Blake and Ryan Reynolds as this overly powerful Hollywood couple who underestimated how badly public opinion could turn against them. And that's honestly shocking because for years, Ryan and Blake had one of the strongest celebrity couple brands in entertainment. Funny interviews, cute social media moments, glamorous appearances. People love them. Now, every single Ryan Reynolds joke online gets flooded with comments about Justin Baldoni. Every Blake Lively appearance turns into a debate war. That's a huge image collapse in celebrity terms. And apparently, Hollywood insiders are exhausted, too. Some reports claim studio executives and PR people just want this entire thing to disappear because it became toxic for everyone involved. There are even whispers that some industry people think Blake made a massive strategic mistake by continuing to publicly fight after the settlement direction became obvious. Because here's the thing nobody can ignore anymore. If Blake Lively truly believed she had overwhelming, undeniable evidence, people expected this to go all the way to trial. That's what keeps coming up repeatedly online. Critics keep asking why everything subtly shifted towards settlements, attorney fee battles, PR statements, and legal technicalities instead of a full public courtroom showdown. And Justin Baldoni's side keeps leaning into that exact argument. Brian Friedman literally said, "If this was really about survivors, why not take the stand and prove it?" That line alone became one of the biggest talking points surrounding the entire controversy because supporters of Baldoni feel it confirms their belief that Blake's team didn't want difficult questions under oath. Meanwhile, Blake's supporters argue the exact opposite. They believe the legal environment became hostile and toxic and that Blake never should have had to publicly relive everything in court anyway. So now the internet is completely divided into two very aggressive camps. And honestly, nobody is convincing the other side anymore. But what really pushed the story into full celebrity gossip and sanity was the growing belief that this entire thing stopped being about it ends with us a long time ago. Now it feels personal, deeply personal. The constant leaks, the passive-aggressive lawyer comments, the insider quotes, the public shade. It feels like everybody involved genuinely hates each other now. And through all of it, Blake Lively's image keeps taking hit after hit because the public mood shifted dramatically against her. Even people who originally supported her are now saying they're exhausted by the nonstop messaging and the constant attempt to frame every development as some giant, empowering victory. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni somehow became the guy people are rooting for. And honestly, if somebody told Hollywood executives a year ago that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds would end up looking like the villains in a public battle against Justin Baldoni, they probably would have laughed in your face. But here we are. Hollywood's most chaotic celebrity war just keeps getting messier. The media keeps milking every single update. And at this point, nobody believes the story is truly over yet.